What if I told you that studying harder might actually be the very thing wrecking your grades? It might sound counterintuitive, but stick with me for a minute. Imagine you're hitting the gym every day, slogging through endless workouts, but you're doing every exercise with terrible form. What happens? You end up injured, frustrated, and not getting any stronger. That's exactly what a lot of students are doing. They're putting in endless hours with their noses buried in textbooks, yet when exam day rolls around, all that hard work doesn't translate into the grades they hoped for. For years, I believed that the key to academic success was to study longer. I'd pull all-nighters, reread my notes until my eyes felt like they were about to shut down for good, and still, my grades barely scratched the surface of what I knew I was capable of. It wasn't until I discovered the power of active learning that everything changed. Instead of just passively reading and highlighting, I began engaging with the material. Testing myself, discussing concepts with friends, and even teaching ideas out loud. That shift made all the difference. And today, I want to share those insights with you. Let's break it down. Most of us were taught that if we just put in enough hours, success would follow. We cram textbooks, underline every important sentence, and then hope that our brains somehow absorb everything. But here's the brutal truth. It's not about the hours you spend. It's about what you do with those hours. Research shows that simply rereading your notes may help you review the material, but it usually only gives you about a 10% retention rate. In contrast, actively engaging with the content through practice tests, flashcards, or explaining concepts to someone else can boost retention up to 75%. That's the difference between a half-hearted attempt at learning and truly understanding the material. So, think about it this way. If you study for 10 hours with a retention rate of just 10%, you're effectively getting only 1 hour of real useful learning. But if you can study just 1 hour with 50% retention by really focusing and actively engaging with the material, you're achieving the same level of learning just in a fraction of the time. It's like choosing between a clumsy, drawn-out rehearsal and a focused, effective practice session that leaves you ready to perform. Now, consider the classic cramming session before an exam. Cramming is a lot like binge-eating junk food. Sure, you might fill up, but you feel awful afterward, and most of that information is quickly forgotten. What really works is a method called spaced repetition. Instead of trying to cram 14 hours of studying into one chaotic night, spread your study sessions out. For instance, try studying for one focused hour each day over 2 weeks. This gives your brain the time it needs to digest the information properly, solidifying what you learn rather than letting it slip away. I remember those days all too well, staring at my textbooks in the dead of night, but convinced that more hours meant more learning. But after switching to active learning, I noticed a dramatic change. I started doing practice tests regularly, quizzing myself on key points, and even discussing what I'd learned with friends. Slowly but surely, my grades improved. I began to understand that studying isn't just about how long you sit with your books. It's about how effectively you engage with the material. So what exactly is the secret? It's all about focus, engagement, and strategy. First, concentrate on what really matters, retaining the material. Your study sessions should be structured around activities that force you to recall information rather than simply reviewing it passively. Second, space out your learning. This approach not only helps your brain process the information, but also makes your study time more efficient. And third, allow yourself to forget and then relearn. It might sound odd, but the act of struggling to remember and then successfully recalling a concept is what strengthens your memory in the long run. Unfortunately, most educational systems still cling to the old ways, expecting you to put in long hours without showing you how to truly learn. But you have the power to change your habits. You don't have to follow the outdated advice of a study more. Instead, you can study smart. Imagine tomorrow you decide to swap one of your passive study sessions for an active one. Instead of just rereading your notes, try tackling a past exam paper. Quiz yourself on the material, or better yet, explain the concept to someone else, even if it's just talking it out loud to yourself. You'll notice that the material starts to stick, and you're not only preparing for the test, you're actually learning. And here's a reality check. If you continue with the same old methods, you're just spinning your wheels. Studying harder without a proper strategy can lead to frustration, wasted time, and ultimately, mediocre results. But by adopting active learning and spaced repetition, you'll find that you're not only improving your grades, but also gaining more free time to pursue other interests. It's a win-win situation. More effective studying means more efficient learning and, ultimately, a more balanced life. I know change isn't easy. Breaking out of old study habits can feel uncomfortable at first. You might even doubt that these new methods will work for you. But trust me, the results speak for themselves. When you start focusing on quality over quantity, you'll see a dramatic improvement in your understanding and retention. Your brain is an amazing tool, but it needs the right kind of input and rest to function at its best. So here's my challenge to you. Start small, full. Tomorrow, commit to one active study session. Replace your usual reread with a session where you actively engage with the material. Tackle a practice test, create a set of flashcards, or explain a tricky concept to a friend. Notice the difference in how much you retain and let that motivate you to incorporate more active learning into your routine. You'll learn how to study smarter, not harder. Imagine achieving more with less stress, freeing up time for the things you love, and finally reaching your full academic potential. Remember, studying isn't about grinding for endless hours. It's about developing a strategy that works for you. By focusing on retention, spacing out your sessions, and engaging actively with the material, you can transform your learning experience and see real results. Hit that like button if you're ready to make a change, leave a comment sharing your biggest study challenge, and subscribe for more no-nonsense advice. Your future self will thank you for taking the first step towards a smarter, more efficient way of learning. You've got this. Let's start a revolution in the way we study, one smart, focused session at a time.